Good morning. This public hearing conducted by the Committee on Economic Development, Agriculture, Maritime Transportation, Power and Energy Utilities, and Emergency Response will now come to order. Notice of the public hearing was disseminated to all local media outlets via electronic mail on March 1st, 2019, with a second notice provided on March 9th of 2019. Notice of the hearing was also made known on the Guam Legislature's website. Today's hearing begins with discussion on the confirmation of the appointment of Mr. Daniel C. Stone as Fire Chief of the Guam Fire Department. Before we begin, I'd like to recognize my colleagues up here, beginning with committee members, Senator Regine Bisco-Lee, Senator James C. Moylan, and Senator Mary Camacho Torres, and to my right, Senator Tello Taidagui. And with that, I would like to begin by calling up the first people who have signed up to provide oral testimony this morning, beginning with Joey Manabusan, Tammy Castro, Luis Santos, Kevin Riley, and Rosanna Castro.
Hafaday, Honorable Senators.
Please introduce yourself before you begin your testimony.
Yes, sir. My name is Joey Manabusan. I'm the Fire Marshal and Assistant Fire Chief with the Guam Fire Department. I've been with the Fire Department for over 29 years. I'm here to provide oral testimony in support of Chief Daniel Stone. I have known Chief Stone for over 20 years. We've had parallel careers with the Fire Department and the United States Air Force. With the Fire Service, I've seen him move up the ranks from firefighter up to Assistant Fire Chief and to the position of Acting Fire Chief of the airport. One of the unique things that he did along the way was Chief Stone is actually a certified SWAT tactical EMT. We don't have too many of those in the fire service, so those are one of the concepts that the Guam Fire Department actually was looking at implementing. With the Air Force, I've seen Chief Stone move up from the rank of airman up to the ranks of Chief Master Sergeant in the Air Force, and if any of you are military, Chief Master Sergeant is the top 1% of the United States Air Force. Very notable achievement. He is a deployed veteran in the war and terrorism. So he's seen some time over at the sandbox in the Middle East, serving our nation in that capacity. Chief Dan is also a pro board fire instructor, and he's taught many classes not only on Guam, but throughout the region, acting as an ambassador for Guam and also as a fire service. He is also in the board of directors with the Western Pacific Island Associations of Fire Chiefs, and again, part of the leadership. He's no stranger to the Guam Fire Department. The fire service is a very tight brotherhood, especially here in our region and the United States. And by the way, the Western Pacific Islands Association of Fire Chiefs is part of the Western Division of Chiefs underneath the International Association of Fire Chiefs, which is the largest fire service organization in the world. So we are actually part of that international organization. And you have like 4 of the board of directors here in this room, including myself, Chief Stone, Chief St. Nicholas, and Chief Stan Torres that are all here. Chief Stone is a man of integrity, service, and excellence. I've known him for years, and he has exhibited those traits and characteristics. He's an educated fire chief with a bachelor's degree, along with a Air Force, Community College of the Air Force Transportation degree, and he's also a certified professional manager with the Air Force, Community College of the Air Force. So he continues to strive towards excellence, and he leads and learns as he works towards his master's degree in Homeland Security. He continues to promote excellence with GFD. And one of the things that he wishes that we've discussed is he wants to continue to achieve full accreditation with the Center of Public Safety and Excellence, which is the primary accreditation organization of fire service in the United States. With that said, I'm here again in support in the confirmation of Chief Daniel Stone for the position of GFD Fire Chief. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Manabusan. Tammy Castro.
Hafa-Day Senators, my name is Tammy Castro. I've spent the past 24 years working in the airline industry with various leadership roles in airport operations. My current position with United is Manager Hub Passenger Service. I am also serving in the Air Force Reserve and have spent 18 years with the 624th Aerospace Medicine Flight. I am a Senior Master Sergeant and currently function as a Superintendent of Nursing Services. I have known Daniel C. Stone for nearly 20 years. He's a colleague, a mentor, and a friend. I am here today to support and testify on behalf of his character and ability to lead the Guam Fire Department. I first met Chief Stone as cadre for the Airport Rescue and Firefighters Training Program. His cadence seemed to be the significant driving force behind the team's motivation to succeed. We crossed paths again when I enlisted in the Air Force Reserve, and he accepted the position as our first sergeant in our newly formed medical squadron. As a first sergeant, he was responsible for the morale, welfare, and conduct of all enlisted members, and he was the chief advisor to our squadron commander. Chief Stone has the natural ability of a great leader. He immensely dedicated his time to develop and mentor unit members. He encouraged maximum contribution of each of us, which led our team to consistently volunteer for outreach projects in our local community. His excellent leadership led our squadron to obtain 2 outstanding unit awards. Chief Stone's charismatic leadership inspired me to be the best version of me, and it was evident when we both garnered the Pacific Air Force Outstanding Airman Year of the Award in 2007. He was awarded First Sergeant of the Year, and I for Non-Commissioned Officer of the Year. He now holds the rank of Chief Master Sergeant in the Air Force Reserve and continues to excel and develops an organization culture that fosters teamwork. Over the time we have known each other, I have reached out to Chief Stone as a valuable resource. With his guidance, my team spearheaded a local CPR training program, which at times we co-teach with ARF CPR instructors. By combining forces, we can offer training opportunities to a wider range of organizations that includes airport employees, airport tenants, and vendors. This is only one of the examples of where his leadership has guided me to the right path. I can further state that Chief Stone is a leader who values integrity. He has a way with people, and that shines through in all that he does. Chief Stone will be an asset to the Guam Fire Department, and I support and highly recommend him in the leadership role as the Guam Fire Department Chief.
Thank you. I'd like to recognize Senator Amanda Shelton and call upon Mr. Luis Santos for testimony.
Half day and good morning. My name is Luis Santos. I'm a friend and former colleague of Chief Stone. Thank you for allowing me to comment in favor of Daniel Stone's confirmation as the Fire Chief for the Guam Fire Department. I have known Chief Stone in a professional capacity since the late 1980s. What started out as co-workers developed into a friendship, which is a testament to his trustworthiness and his overall capacity as a human being. But I'm not here to talk about my friend. I'm here to talk about the future Fire Chief of the Guam Fire Department. Dan Stone is a leader. He is a leader in the military. He was a leader in his previous position at the Guam International Airport Authority, and I have no problem seeing him as a leader for GFD. I have no doubt in his ability to navigate the intricacies of the Guam Fire Department relative to the numerous stations, the numerous responsibilities to the community, the budget, the decreasing personnel. Oh, and did I say the budget? It's everybody's issue, I guess. Everything I've witnessed in Chief Stone's role has been about moving the mission forward, and not about moving Dan Stone forward. He generates numerous ideas and empowers others to fulfill those ideas and allows them to own them and take credit for them. Chief Stone brings a unique perspective to his position. He has worked for the Federal Fire Department, and he has worked for the Aircraft Rescue Firefighting Department under GIAA, and now he is working for the Guam Fire Department. He has seen the strengths and weaknesses in all three departments, and I imagine he will work to create an overall fire network on Guam while the departments navigate their individual responsibilities. I want to go back to the statement of working for the Guam Fire Department. That emphasis is intentional because even when he is in charge, he knows the decisions he makes affect each of those who work for him. Chief Stone is inspirational. He encourages others to seek to better themselves. He encourages those same people to make the department better. He is also motivational in that he keeps people going when they normally want to throw in the towel. Please understand, I'm not trying to paint him out to be a cheerleader. Chief Stone has high expectations for the people he works with and for those who work for him. But he has a way about correcting others that really makes them see the need to improve and gives them the desire to improve. I believe that the governor chose the most qualified person for this position, and I hope you support the appointment of Daniel Stone to the fire chief's position of the Guam Fire Department. Si Diyos Masi.
Thank you, Mr. Santos. Kevin Riley.
Hafa Senators of the Guam Legislature. My name is Kevin Riley, and I'm a firefighter with the Guam Fire Department, currently serving as the aide to the fire chief, as well as a public information officer for the department. I've held these positions since the previous fire chief, Joyce Nicholas. I'm here this morning in support for the confirmation of Chief Daniel Stone as chief of the Guam Fire Department. I've known Chief Stone for many years, both personally and professionally, and I've seen his interactions with our department as well as members of his former department during training missions, morale events, and recent station visits. Chief Stone has always maintained a professional demeanor and sincere dedication to the fire service. He came over to the Guam Fire Department a couple months ago, and I could tell from our initial meeting that he had the passion to continue the progress we have made so far. He is very eager to assume the duties as chief and spent countless hours going over the needs of the department, our successes and shortfalls, and what was best for the alignment of the department to meet the intent of the current administration's vision. He laid out his goals for the future of the department, focusing mainly on the quality of life, equipment, and training for our members, very purposeful endeavors. Within those 2 months, Chief Stone has been adamant about reaching out to our firefighters and chief officers, gathering concerns and recommendations, but also laying out the plan for accomplishing these tasks. I'm very confident that Chief Stone has the knowledge and the ability to lead the Guam Fire Department. His experience as Assistant Chief of the Airport Fire will bring additional perspectives and ideas that will be beneficial to the continued success and growth of the Guam Fire Department. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Rosanna Castro.
Buenas and half a day, Senator Ridgell and members of this esteemed committee. Thank you for the opportunity to offer my testimony in support of Daniel Stone's nomination as Chief of the Guam Fire Department. My name is Rosanna Castro, and for the last 5 years, I have been blessed to be a part of Daniel's life and his family. Dan is the son of Richard and Raquel Nicholas Stone, familia in Manuk, and the eldest of 2 children. Born in Kailua, Hawaii, and raised in Bethpage, Long Island, New York, Dan's parents relocated the family to Guam in 1983 and settled on family property in God's country, Talafofu. Dan is the proud father of Daniel Jr., who will soon graduate from the University of Guam with a degree in Chamorro Studies, and Christy Lynn, who has her sights on a career in law enforcement. His sister Jennifer is also a public servant with over 20 years of law enforcement experience. She is employed at the Judiciary of Guam. From a young age, Dan discovered an affinity for the fire service. Down the road from his home was the Levittown Firehouse, where, according to his mom, he spent lots of time. As a junior fire cadet, he participated in a program that nurtured his childhood dream of becoming a firefighter. He knew then that he wanted to help people. His father, Richard, a Vietnam veteran, inspired his decision to enlist in the Army right after graduating from Inarajan High School in 1986. He served as a helicopter crew chief, where he learned the importance of discipline, attention to detail, and teamwork during his 5-year enlistment. In 1992, Dan realized his dream of becoming a firefighter with the Navy Federal Fire Service. 3 years later, with the turnover of the Naval Air Station to the Guam International Airport Authority, he transitioned to service with the government of Guam. And in his over 23-year career with the Aircraft Rescue and Firefighting Division at the airport, Dan rose through the ranks to serve as Assistant Fire Chief. During his tenure with ARF, Dan functioned as the training officer, responsible for developing and coordinating curriculum to ensure compliance with Federal Aviation Administration advisory circulars, staying abreast of cutting-edge fire suppression techniques and equipment, industry best practices, and sustainment training. As the keeper of training records, Dan played a crucial role in providing a comprehensive accounting of inspectable logs, which supported the GIAA's ability to obtain a zero discrepancy, perfect score on their annual FAA recertification inspection for 3 consecutive years, the first time ever in the region. For over 10 years, Dan also served as an adjunct instructor for the Pacific Regional ARF Training Center, PRATC, the body responsible for training and certifying aircraft rescue firefighters throughout the Micronesian region. PRATC is the accredited regional training facility for the National Professional Qualification System, more commonly referred to as Pro Board. Dan's position as an adjunct instructor was vital to the facilitation of Pro Board certification locally. Dan once again heeded the call to service and enlisted in the Air Force Reserve Unit, 44th Aerial Port Squadron. He holds the highest enlisted rank of Chief Master Sergeant after nearly 30 years of military service. Dan continues to hone his leadership skills as the chief responsible for overseeing aerial port operations, managing a squadron of over 200 airmen. He has deployed to Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Iraq, and Afghanistan in support of the military's mission in theater. During his service with the Air Force Reserve, Dan received his Bachelor of Science degree in Leadership and Interdisciplinary Studies from Trident University International in 2016. The last 3 decades of professional experience have prepared Dan Stone for this next endeavor as Chief of the Guam Fire Department. He embodies the spirit of public service in all of the uniforms that he has been honored to wear. Dan's fire service and military careers have equipped him with the skills and competencies necessary to lead the department. The values of integrity, accountability, and fairness instilled by his parents and practiced over the course of his professional career will guide him in his capacity as fire chief. His passion for the work, admiration of the dedicated professionals of GFD, and love for his community will inspire him to do the best that he can every day. I am confident that Dan will be a good steward of public trust, and I ask that you confirm him as the Chief of the Guam Fire Department. Thank you.
Thank you. And before we continue, allow me to recognize Senator Kelly Marsh Taitano. And before this panel leaves, I'd like to open it up to my colleagues, if anyone has any questions of any of the members of this first panel. All right, thank you. I'd like to call up now the next panel, Joey Nicholas, Stanley Torres, Daniel Stone Jr., and also if there's anyone else that would like to testify today. Okay, we'll begin with Chief Nicholas.
Hafren, good morning. Thank you, Senator Ridgell and members of the 35th Guam Legislature. Thank you once again for allowing us to provide testimony. My name is Joey Nicholas, the past fire chief, both confirmed and acting for the past 7+ years, and now your deputy fire chief for the Guam Fire Department. I'm also a commissioned officer in the National Guard, Guam Army National Guard, as well as the current president of the Western Pacific Island Association of Fire Chiefs. I come before you today during bereavement to provide testimony in support of Mr. Daniel Stone. It is with honor and excitement that I highly recommend his confirmation as our fire chief. Over 7 years ago, and after 4 other nominees who did not confirm, I sat before this body, willing to take an organization that was at its most difficult and challenging state of affairs. And with the support of this legislature, we provided the necessary tools, equipment, training, and improvements that were long overdue and transformed the Guam Fire Department into the benchmark fire service of the region, comparable to any high-performing fire and emergency services agencies in the nation. But most importantly, with your help, we lifted the morale and the pride of our department and instilled core values of professionalism, respect, integrity, dedication, and empathy. However, we still have a lot of room for growth, improvement, and positive change to meet the increasing demands of our island community. Considering all we have accomplished and how high we raised the bar as a Department of the Decade, the willingness to take on this position can be both enticing and at the same time intimidating. A lot have asked me, why didn't I apply? Why didn't I continue? Why fix something that isn't broke? My answer, besides the obvious change in administration, is that change is a good thing. A new perspective and new energy may be something that we need right now. I could tell you that I need it right now. A leader who has the same passion and core values to do everything we can to save lives and protect our island. A strategic planner who has paramilitary discipline, dynamic leadership skills, inclusive personality, who is technically and tactically sound, who leads by example in health, physicality, and skills, and capable of making decisions, including the unpopular ones, not because of political influence, but because it's the right thing to do. And finally, having the skin to stand the scrutiny of this body, the media, as well as our community. I have known Chief Stone professionally and personally for over 20 years. I believe he fits this description. In his short time as our acting fire chief, he has transitioned smoothly, easing the anxiety of change amongst our firefighters, emergency medical dispatchers, and civilian staff. His maturity and experience is most notable as he has demonstrated respect for those who have come before him while still establishing the start of his leadership presence. Acting Fire Chief assuming command has allowed me to take a knee. And now I too will return with new energy and excitement for what our future holds should you confirm him as your fire chief. I commit to you that I will support him and do my best to make him successful and by extension, keeping our organization successful. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Governor Lou Leon Guerrero and Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio for their appointment of Daniel Stone. And I now ask you, the 35th Guam Legislature, to confirm Mr. Daniel Stone as the Fire Chief of the Guam Fire Department. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before we continue, allow me to recognize Senator Pito Terlahi. And let's continue now with testimony from Mr. Stanley Torres.
Half a day, good morning. Honorable Senators, Mr. Chairman. My name is Stanley C. Torres. I'm currently the Fire Chief for Anderson Air Force Base. But this morning I'm here on behalf of myself and also on behalf of the Western Fire Chief Association, which is a division of the International Fire Chiefs Association, as a board member. I actually had a lot of stuff written down last night, but everybody before me and my dear friend over here, Deputy Fire Chief St. Nicholas, pretty much said it all for Chief Dan Stone. I've known Chief Stone for over 20 years. During my tenure as a fire chief in Saipan International Airport, I was in charge of the Pratt Sea Center, which was mentioned earlier, with the Pacific Region Training Center for all of Micronesia. Chief Stone came to me as a firefighter, ready to go, ready to assist in any way, and that's how pretty much he became part of my AJAC instructors. And he assisted me in helping out upgrading the training center, the curriculum, and so forth to where it is right now. Also in this room, I'd like to just acknowledge the presence of two other fire chiefs here, the Regional Fire Chief, Russ Tarver, to my left, and also the Navy-based Fire Chief, Gifton Lawrence, to my left behind me. But for short, Chief Dan Stone, as a good friend, leader, humble person, kind, willing to put everything in front of him to take care of his people first. I've seen him do it as a firefighter, as a fire lieutenant, as a fire captain, and then assistant chief for Guam International Airport. As the next fire chief for Guam Fire Department, he can do better, and I know he will. I thank the Honorable Governor Lulian Guerrero and Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio for nominating Chief Dan Stone to be the next Guam Fire Chief. And I ask the committee to humbly confirm him. Pretty much everybody mentioned everything about his character, but just so you know, he really likes to smile. Thank you.
Thank you. Daniel Stone, Jr.
Half a day, Senators. Half a day, everyone. Thank you all once again for being here today. When my dad told me that I would be delivering this testimony, I wasn't too sure how to go about doing it. As a college student, I hate homework. Also, there's not much I can really say about my dad's professional career that's not already in the public record. But what I can speak on is my own experiences with him throughout my life and the influence he's had on the people both my sister and I have become today. As an airport fireman, my dad would be home one day and at work the next. And as a reservist who's been activated multiple times, there were instances where he would be gone for months even. This was a double-edged sword for both my sister and me, because although we would miss him, it usually meant for us that it was party time. But in all seriousness, even when he wasn't physically at home with us, the things he has instilled in us, at least for me, have remained till this day. He taught my sister and me to take care of each other, because when neither he nor our mom were around, we would only have each other. He taught me to always strive to be the best version of myself, never take anything at face value. But most important of all, he taught me to take it as a compliment rather than get mad when someone is checking out my shit. I always thought the cliche, "You'll understand when you're older," was just a myth. And even though my life's path is vastly different from my dad's, I found myself on so many occasions going, "Leche, I sound just like him." Which can be annoying at times, but is also a testament to the impact his teachings have made. It just goes to show that the quality of time you spend with your loved ones is way more important than the quantity, because the memories we create as people become as strong as the emotions attached to them. With that being said, I will close by saying, "Man brabu ham tatan mami, hagu muna dong kluhit, men gofli ihao, then biba mes chamorro."
Biba, thank you. Before this panel leaves, do any of my colleagues have any questions for this panel? Senator Kelly Marsh Titan.
Half a day. So this is really more of a comment. I just want to make it clear, and excuse me I'm not quite sure why I feel emotional right now, but I just want to make it clear that I'm very close to the son, Daniel Stone. I find him, he's somebody I greatly admire. I find him highly principled and of a very strong character. And I think that says, as he pointed out, it really points to the parents who raised him and the environment that he was raised in. So along with Daniel, we've known each other for many years, the son. He served as a student. I've seen him outreach to our island youth about Fatina Silati, some of the skills that we've been trying to recapture together in latte carving. And he's excelled so well that he's come back as an instructor, and he's now part of some grant projects that I'm involved with as well. So I just want to lend my support to what he's saying, and I've seen and observed the high character that his family exudes through him, and just to make it clear that I do have that connection to the family.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Terlahi.
First up, I just want to apologize for being late. I had another commitment this morning that I feel I need to do something about it. But let me just say that I've met the Mr. Stone several times already at my office, and though I didn't ask him for his mission statement, the way he presented himself to me and the things that I've asked him, it's all right on the point. So, Mr. Stone, you got my support. Thank you very much.
Senator Torres.
Thank you. Thank you for offering the perspectives that I think are so important for us to consider. One is, Chief Torres, the successes that Captain Stone has had in working with the fire department and with the network of firefighters to perfect it. Chief St. Nicholas, I think you bring a very good insight into the importance of having the successes of a division, an agency, continue, and that the presence of a former chief in working in tandem with a present chief is so vital to the institution, because what this government doesn't need is for former chiefs to be degrading or condescending or undermining current chiefs. And your willingness to not only acknowledge your successes, but to be humble enough to facilitate in the future successes of your incoming chief speak volumes not only to your character, but to the institution that will thrive with both of you as the chief and the deputy. So thank you very much for your professionalism. I think that that is a good example that we need to exemplify right now. And Daniel Stone Jr., you capture something that is very important also in terms of looking at leadership. Many of us look at leadership in terms of action, but there's a phrase that people will often forget what you did, but they'll seldom forget how you made them feel. And that sense of making somebody feel good is not only a token inatfat maulik or inatfat maguf. It's really about incentivizing people to do good because you make them feel good. And that is the cornerstone of a good leader, is not only being effective up here, but being effective here, because the heart is really what drives all of us. You know, more than greed, more than power, more than intellect. It's really desire and motivation. So thank you very much for sharing that. I just want to put that in perspective, because there are many, many great people and many great accomplishments, but what is it that is really necessary and a component in a very vital agency like GFD? And that is the three elements that you three gentlemen represent here. And that's not to discredit the other panel. I just thought that it was it was just a nice compliment with these three. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Torres. Senator Titagui.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I thought I was the only one up here, shedding a tear when you were doing your testimony, but my colleague too had me going a second round of holding back the tears as I heard your testimony, Daniel. And looking at your father, I don't think you noticed him behind you, but he was also shedding a tear while you were while you were saying your testimony. And it says a lot, you being here, especially as a parent myself, to have my child come and testify. It really, really does mean a lot. It's not about, getting the position. When you have your child come up and testify you, it's about love and all the hard work that he instilled you. And see, now you're making me cry again, Chief. So that being said, I've been at many public hearings for confirmation, and I think this is the first time we've had the son or daughter come up to testify, so it really does mean a lot what you did today, and it shows the character of your father. So thank you for that. Chief Siniglis, I just wanted to say thank you for all your hard work these last 7 years. It's been, you've shown a great example, and you've passed over the baton while you put, well, what I'm trying to say is, it's going to be a lot easier for you, Mr. Stone, because of the work that Joey has done in these last 7 years. And I just want to take this opportunity to thank you again, Chief Siniglis, for all your hard work. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator. And if there are no further questions, you may return to your seats. At this point, let's call up the nominee himself, Mr. Dan Stone. Please join us.
All right, I'm going to try and maintain my composure here. That was pretty tough. I appreciate everything. Hafa and good morning, Senator Ridgell, and members of the Committee on Economic Development, Agriculture, Maritime Transportation, Power and Energy Utilities, and Emergency Response. I am honored to appear before you today as Governor Leon Guerrero and Lieutenant Governor Tenorio's nominee as Chief of the Guam Fire Department. I am humbled by their confidence in me and by the outpouring of support from my family, my friends, and my colleagues. My passion for firefighting actually started when I was 12 years old while still living in Bethpage, New York. A close friend told me about a junior fire cadet program hosted by our neighborhood firehouse. The program was designed to train and teach young kids the skills similar to real firefighters. I joined the program, and needless to say, I was hooked. I never imagined that 40 years later, my childhood dream would bring me here today before you, asking for your support. As a 12-year-old, I was excited about the prospect of firefighting and saving lives. My 26 years of working in the field has taught me that fire service involves much more. At the core of any emergency response team are the women and men in the organization. But at the helm is a leader who is responsive to the team's needs, instills community confidence in the organization, and is able to work effectively with government, community, and collaborative entities on Guam, as well as our neighboring island counterparts in promoting community safety. I believe that my years of experience have prepared me and brought me here today as that leader. When I was approached to consider assuming the fire chief position, I asked myself what I felt I can bring to the department. I feel fortunate to have worked my way up the ranks from a firefighter in the Navy Federal Fire Department and applying to the Airport Authority after Naval Air Station Nagano closed, where I spent just over 23 years rising to the rank of Assistant Fire Chief. I've learned from the ground up the spectrum of firefighter responsibilities from working in the field, from working in the trenches all the way up to managing a whole department. My experience has taught the importance of not only being receptive to the needs of firefighters, but the needs of a broader management perspective, ensuring alignment with the administration's strategic plans, federal compliance, developing and adhering to strategies and budgets, developing and coordinating training initiatives, providing support and training to our neighboring islands, and networking with local and federal agencies. Over the years, I have developed relationships with our local and federal counterparts, as well as first responders and officials in the region and nationally. I've had the opportunity to work with the Guam Fire Department and other safety professionals on many projects. This network of contacts and affiliations will be a tremendous asset as we continue to move GFD forward, meeting our goals and objectives. I'm excited to bring a new perspective, innovative ideas, and renewed energy in my capacity at the Guam Fire Department. I believe I have had the leadership experience and capabilities to oversee the department and understand that as a good leader, I must first assess what the current state of the fire department is. I know that Deputy Chief St. Nicholas worked tirelessly to address many of the issues that have plagued, and in some cases continue to plague the department, and that it is important for me to keep the momentum moving forward. I've had the opportunity to visit the stations and meet with the personnel assigned to them. I have also reviewed existing reports and goals in place for the department. Based on the information I have reviewed, I believe I can assist in the following areas. 1, maintenance of facilities, equipment, and fleet. 2, firefighter training, physical fitness program, and mental health support. 3, volunteer firefighter reserve program. 4, creation of a standalone emergency medical technician and fire inspector position with career path development. And 5, the emergency 911 system. And 6, the junior cadet training program. Maintenance of facilities and the fire department fleet is key to ensuring prompt response to island emergencies. There are efforts in place currently to purchase on a rotational basis the replacement of fire engines during one fiscal year and ambulances the next fiscal year. The purchase would include an extended warranty or maintenance contracts with the intent of eventually replacing our aging, high-mileage fleet. I will continue to work with the involved parties to see this to fruition and implement this as a standing practice to ensure a high state of readiness and response capabilities at all times. I have learned that the fire department is manned with firefighters and personnel dedicated and passionate about the work they do. Their safety and well-being will always be priority. A responsive fire department is staffed with personnel who are well-trained, provided with the proper equipment and resources, and are physically and mentally fit. With the passage of Public Law 34-136, which implemented the Post-Physical Fitness Qualifications Test, the PFQT, the Guam Fire Department recognizes that the overall health and well-being of our Category 1 and 2 firefighting personnel cannot be treated as a bylaw requirement, but must become a culture of health and wellness integrated into our firefighters' required training. Duties of a firefighter require them to operate in high-stress situations and witness traumatic incidents. The stress can cause physical and mental issues, as well as issues with their personal lives. I will work with the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center and research other funding opportunities to develop programs and services that address the mental health and relationship issues that our firefighters may encounter. I have already met with the department chaplain, Father Julius, to discuss how we can provide support in these areas. Our emergency dispatchers, who assist those who phone in their emergencies to 911, also experience stressful working environments and even vicarious trauma. These folks provide comfort and reassurance to callers who have been involved in a car crash, are injured, or whose loved ones need emergency medical attention. It can be difficult for some people to be able to decompress after a stressful shift or go home to their families after dealing with an especially difficult call. Our dispatchers' health and wellness are priorities for the department, and I will work diligently to include programs and services for our dispatchers as well. The development of a volunteer firefighter reserve program is an idea that has been presented as a means to address budget and workforce issues. I will work with the appropriate personnel and government departments to assess the feasibility of implementing the Volunteer Reserve Program. Such a program will require startup funding, over 200 training hours to obtain certification, and additional equipment. Development would also require volunteer eligibility requirements, which are already in draft form, training requirements, identification of department personnel to manage the program, development of participant agreements and waivers, training manuals, operation procedures, and protocol procedures to activate volunteers. There are challenges to its viability. However, I am open to any program that could potentially provide more efficiency or improve on the quality of service that our firefighters already provide our communities. The creation of non-firefighter, nationally certified emergency medical technicians, as well as non-firefighter, nationally certified fire inspector positions is an ongoing project. The creation and implementation of these standalone positions will potentially provide additional career paths within the department, assist in addressing budgetary issues, and put our firefighters back in the engine companies, rescue bases, and hazardous materials teams, and allow for appropriate staffing and scheduling of firefighters at the stations. It is our goal that these non-firefighter, standalone EMT and fire inspector positions would be placed on 8-hour work schedules. They will not be required to attend a fire academy or receive firefighter certification. As standalone positions, they are not eligible for firefighter and incentive pays, as well as overtime. It will also reduce the amount of fire recruits necessary to bring the department from our current staffing of 227 to 304 in order for me to properly and safely staff our engine companies, search and rescue crews, and hazmat teams. As we are well aware, our legacy emergency 911 system has been stretched well beyond its service life and is nearly 30 years old, where basic maintenance and parts replacements have proven a challenge. I am pleased to share that March 1st was the last day for vendors to submit their proposals in response to the RFP for the next generation 911 system, and we have received several packets. The next generation 911 system will place state-of-the-art technology by way of data, internet protocol, as well as cellular phone location capability in the hands of our trained emergency medical dispatchers to deploy the appropriate emergency resources more expeditiously, as well as provide over-the-phone medical or emergency instructions until the arrival of fire, police, or EMS units. Today, the majority of 911 calls are received from cellular phones, which, with the next generation 911 system, dispatchers, by use of GPS and mapping software, will be able to pinpoint that cellular device within 10 meters of its location. This same software will also enable real-time tracking of emergency assets that are equipped with vehicle positioning systems so that dispatchers can more effectively and efficiently respond to the closest unit in the vicinity for a call to assistance. And yes, the system will also be able to digitally record phones and radio communications. The impact of that the Junior Fire Cadet program made in my life has inspired me to consider implementing a program here. In an effort to engage our community youth and encourage mentoring by our everyday heroes, I would like to launch a Fire Cadet program aimed at teaching civic responsibility, fostering a culture of volunteerism, and possibly growing the next generation of firefighters here on Guam. I am confident that a program such as this will be beneficial for the entire community. Senator Ridgell and senatorial committee members, I am humbled by this opportunity and understand the importance of leading such a great group of dedicated professionals. I will work diligently to advance the initiatives set forth for the department with the same enthusiasm as a 12-year-old junior fire cadet, combined with the maturity and leadership of a seasoned firefighter. Thank you for allowing me to testify before you today and for your positive consideration of my nomination. Excuse me. I would also like to thank my family and my friends who are present here this morning or who have submitted testimony on my behalf, and I look forward to answering any questions you may have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks. I have a few questions before I open it up to the rest of my colleagues. How do you plan to manage personnel shortages while keeping overtime requirements as low as possible?
Well, thank you for the question, Senator. How do I plan on managing is, well, unfortunately, what I'm faced with is a shortage of staffing, as I already mentioned in my testimony. And we're working with the administration to try and identify funding resources to be able to sit there and provide funding for the next cycle of training. As far as curtailing overtime, that has been a challenge because I do have a requirement to have the adequate staffing at each one of the fire stations. And that is so we don't compromise the safety of our firefighters as well. And so we work very diligently to try and maintain, to stay within our budget parameters, excuse me. But it has been proving challenging. But we have been demonstrating a high level of discipline when it comes to our budget execution. And I have a very qualified staff to be able to manage that for me.
Thank you. Because of the personnel shortage and potential for overtime and other things of that nature, do you think you're going to be able to stay within budget for this year, or are you foreseeing a possible need to request additional funds before the end of the fiscal year?
Well, interesting you bring that question bring a question up, Senator, because I was just speaking with Assistant Chief Mike Uncanko about that. And we are starting to trend towards over-executing our budget at present. However, we have already put out the call for austerity measures within the department. So we're working very hard to make sure we stay within our budget. But unforeseeable, we cannot plan our emergencies, so we're working our best to be able to stay within the budget.
Where is the department at with issuing citations and burn permits, things of that nature, for the fees that will be deposited into the flame fund?
Could you repeat the question one more time, sir?
Where's the department at with issuing citations and burn permits?
So that responsibility lies with our Fire Prevention Bureau, which has very qualified individuals that reside in that bureau. As far as citations are concerned, I'm not able to give you accurate information with regards to that. I know that is an effort in the fire prevention area. However, the focus right now is, of course, reviewing any building plans or new permitting, as well as conducting building inspections of current facilities. Burn permits, as I'm sure you're aware, this is not the time to be issuing burn permits with our dry season in place. But the community, if they would like to obtain a burn permit, can actually go to their local fire station and request that burn permit. And the supervisor responsible for the station would be able to either issue or inform us to why they wouldn't be able to issue that permit.
Thank you. And you're still a reservist with the Air Force, correct?
I am.
Do you see any potential conflict in your schedule to be able to meet the needs of the department along with your role as a Air Force reservist?
No, sir. I don't anticipate any conflicts because I have a very competent deputy fire chief. So if I am called to military service, Chief St. Nicholas is more than capable of taking over the reins while in my absence. However, I will tell you that our unit has already just finished their deployment cycle, and I'm on the twilight of my career, so the likelihood of me being deployed again is nil.
Thanks. Speaking of that, Deputy Chief St. Nicholas is also with the National Guard. What would happen if both of you were busy with your duties with the Air Force Reserve or the National Guard? What is the next line of succession?
So the great thing about the Guam Fire Department is it's got a very strong cadre of chief officers. So if both the number 1 and number 2 positions were deployed for whatever reason, Chief Mike Uncanko would be the next in succession. Then we would have Chief Alex Castro, Chief Manabusan, and Chief Darren Burrier. So the bench is deep. So I'm very confident that if we were called to service, that GFD be in really good hands.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, I'd like to allow my colleagues now to ask questions, beginning with committee members. Senator Regine Lee.
Buenas and Hafa Day, Mr. Chair and members of this committee and everyone here participating in this hearing. Before I begin with my line of questioning, I wanted to first disclose to the body and my potential conflict of interest since my husband, Andy, is a firefighter under GFD. I'll also make this disclosure before we vote in session, and I'll defer to the body with regard to this potential conflict. But I do want to take the opportunity to just thank those who've provided testimony this morning. I wanted to take the opportunity to thank Chief Joey for his service, for stepping up in the very beginning, and for his leadership throughout his time. And I just want to thank him in advance for his continued service in the department, as some of my colleagues have mentioned. Chief Stone, I also want to thank you for accepting the governor's nomination. This is a difficult job. I'm sure you're well aware because of all of your.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we're certainly looking forward to many of the things based on your testimony that you would potentially bring to this role should you be confirmed. I have a few questions, and I wanted to ask you, kind of in line with what the chairman was talking about in terms of the next cycle recruitment and potential promotions. Can you give us a projection on for the next cycle, and then a projection for any promotions that you might have in mind?
Well, thank you for your support, ma'am, and thank you for the question. So GFD's efforts to recruit is ongoing all the time. However, with the government being as cash-strapped as we are, times are tough and lean for everybody in the government of Guam. And so basically it comes down to legislative appropriations. So if we can identify the funding for that, I'd be happy to start the next cycle. We absolutely need it. However, in my discussion with the administration, we are looking to try, with heavy emphasis, to start a cycle as soon as next year, if not sooner.
So that'll be included in your upcoming budget that you submit?
That is correct, yes, Senator.
Okay, and that's the same for promotions as well?
Yes, ma'am.
As you know, I'm sure everybody in this room is aware that hundreds of water-related incidents and calls are received from the department and from our partners, our military partners as well throughout the year. Unfortunately, some of those lead to water-related deaths. So I wanted to just give you the opportunity to provide the committee your plans to improve water safety education and outreach, and as well as improving GFD's response time to these incidents.
Thank you for the question. And coincidentally, just this past week, I met with the Guam Agriculture and Fisheries Department to discuss the possibility of putting in a boat ramp on the east side of the island down at Talafofo Bay. Because as I'm sure you're aware, the eastern exposure of the island has no ready access for any rescue boats or watercraft. So this is a concern of ours. We are also talking about trying to put a rescue base down in Tumon, where a large number of our water-related fatalities have taken place. And so we're working with the appropriate agencies to be able to hopefully be able to get that accomplished.
Thank you very much, Chief. You mentioned in your testimony, and everyone's well aware, that there are very dedicated members of the fire service as well as the GFD staff that you would potentially be in charge of. And so I wanted to give you an opportunity to expound on their training plan and potential funding. I know that there are many opportunities for firefighters to provide or to become available or take advantage of these kinds of training through National Fire Academy and other national and international training opportunities, but it seems like some members of GFD have to kind of pay out of pocket initially with the potential of being reimbursed at the back end. So I just wanted to ask you if in your upcoming budget you foresee an opportunity to provide the funding for training in the front end. I know you mentioned that in your testimony, so I wanted to give you an opportunity to just expound on it.
Thank you, Senator, and you are most definitely a firefighter's wife. You're very well versed. The interesting thing is, you know, that's a testament to the quality of firefighters that we have in the organization who are willing to sit there, who recognize the need for additional training and our certifications, and are willing to sit there and reach into their own pockets in order to be able to do that. Of course, we at the department would absolutely love to be able to support anybody's effort who would like to make improvements to their career. But the good thing is, now that there are provisions in place with the Flame Fund, we will be able to hopefully utilize the funding in that SRF to be able to send our firefighters to those trainings that you mentioned. The great thing about the National Fire Academy is that is done on a voucher system. So any upfront costs that they may have to incur would be reimbursed by the National Fire Academy.
Thank you, and I do ask that question because, you know, it's important, obviously, to me personally, but I think that many of the men and women in this room who are tied and everybody on Guam who is a recipient of the fire service, property and life, all of those things are important, and we want to make sure that the men and women who are tasked to do this job are trained at the very highest levels, not just to protect their own safety and the safety of those who are, that they're trying to protect, but the men and women who are beside them to make sure that everybody gets to come home at the end of every cycle.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much, Chief. You also were speaking, should you be confirmed, I certainly look forward to supporting your efforts, especially as it relates to mental health and those programs and services that you'll be working with GIPWIC and with your chaplain to provide for all firefighters and for the GFD staff. So I want to thank you for mentioning that. I'm also really interested in what you mentioned about non-firefighter fire inspector positions, because
Yes,
many times local businesses come to us and that's one of their main kind of points of contention or something that prohibits them from fully realizing their business plan is they get held up in our one-stop because they are on a long list of waiting for their fire inspection and to be cleared. So I want to thank you for, and for the administration for kind of thinking of that and moving us forward in terms of those types of things. My last question for you is, you had mentioned equipment procurement and a maintenance plan. So I just wanted to give you an opportunity to expound on those things.
Thank you, Senator. Well, as I mentioned earlier, the Flame Fund is where we would be able to find avail ourselves of funding in order to do equipment purchase and maintenance. So as long as the appropriations are there for the Flame Fund, we'll be able to sit there and purchase the required equipment and do the maintenance that's required for our fleet.
Thank you, Chief. Sorry, just one last plug. I know that in the past there have been individuals who've kind of stepped up to the plate to provide GFD opportunities in terms of federal grant funding. And so I'd really like to encourage you, should you be confirmed, to continue to look into that and see what other federal grants the fire department might be able to take into consideration in addition to the support that this body would give financially. We'd love to be able to take advantage of federal dollars that are slated for this kind of work. So
totally agree with you, Senator.
Thank you in advance, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Terlahi, any questions or comments?
Not a question, just a few words of confidence. And I just first want to thank our governor and lieutenant governor for making that right choice.
Thank you.
Totungwana ni Matsuda gi maposna na Simona. To sangana gi finena na to faisno ni zomu mission statement sa anay kumekuntusid. When we started talking about the things that we need to do to invigorate some of the issues that they experience in the Guam Fire Department, such as some of the complaints that are coming up to me regarding the lease office over at the PDN building and things like that, and some of the inequities of salary adjustments that needs to be made. I know I didn't even have to go into deep details on just how you can remediate the problems that you have, because just by talking to you, you have that insight to really clearly come out with a lot of things that will really satisfy the problems that we face in the Guam Fire Department. And I just want to congratulate you for this appointment, because, you know, when I saw you and And you came into my office, and I look at you. I said, "Wow, you know, bonitos tinatawto, por jangin bonito itawto, nay. Guahan na biyan na turi tempo ititsona boninito loko, nay. Ja magaphone uli siya guagini siya manatungo subinu si Assistant Fire Chief San Nicolas, si Nanana Bia no permit guardra dyan si Nanaw. And I don't know when is Mr. Kanko is going to retire, but
hopefully not anytime soon, Senator.
I remember way back then, maybe like 30, 40 years ago, I used to work with this guy, and he's still there, so he must be doing great. I know that the salary might not be that exciting, but you know, when I was going to the University of Guam and we talk about, you know, motivations and things like that, and you know, I find out that, you know, salary is not the real motivating factor in any working environment. We found out that work satisfaction, and I think Mr. Nkanku is staying with the fire department because he likes his job. And I want to thank each and every one of you for coming here, supporting a good man. And let me just say also that I know your daughter. I think she's going out with my grandson.
I think so.
And I'll tell you what, as I sit up here and I face everyone here, I just want to say that there's no way that I will refuse not to support your nomination and your confirmation because of not only because of the relationship, but you have a real fine daughter also, sir. And Mr. Stone, I know you're gonna do good for the Guam Fire Department. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Senator. I really appreciate those comments. And if I may, I hope Chief Nkanko doesn't leave us anytime soon, because if you look up the definition of institutional knowledge, his picture is right there. He's a huge asset to us, and so you know I don't want him to see him go anytime soon. So don't encourage him anymore.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Torres.
Ay, de Senator Pido na minangi how no? Mangi kantos mo. Za Dan tutungo na sina ho no fins tomorrow?
Most
okay.
of it. Most of it.
Okay. But
yes, please.
I just want to say that I had the honor of working with you when I was the executive director at the Guam Airport.
The honor was mine, ma'am.
And thank you. And most especially, we had the ability to understand the leadership nature of one another when we had those many town hall meetings at ARF, the ARF station, when I would drive around the perimeter of the airport to make it to the ARF station. And in those days, we not only tackled some pressing problems, but we also considered what needed to be done to improve not only the equipment and the maintenance, but the succession plan for the leadership at the airport. And in that regard, you were very instrumental and very competent. But one thing that among your 6 points that you brought up that I thought was very valuable is in understanding the role of the firefighter, a lot of the missions involve EMS services on Guam. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And in that regard, I think you've captured a very forward-thinking area that many other jurisdictions are now looking at, not only in public safety, but even in the justice system and others, and that is residual trauma. How does the work of a firefighter affect not only those around him, but his family members or her family members? So in terms of the well-being of the person to function at optimal levels, those indeed are very good considerations for you to tackle. So I just wanted to commend you on that as well.
Thank
you. My colleague to the left, of course, had the punch list of all other concerns that I might have raised, and I thank her for very articulately bringing those points out. And congratulations, and in terms of the professional relationship that we had, working relationship, you most certainly have my unreserved endorsement.
Thank you very much, Senator. I appreciate that very much. Very kind.
Senator Kelly Marsh Taita.
Mananasizu'us.
Mananasizu'us,
Okay, so
Senator.
I think I've regained my composure. I think it was in twofold. One, that I do greatly admire your son so much and have been able to rely on him so much to be able to serve our community. But the other is my father passed away recently, so maybe that was part of it. I'm not sure.
My condolences, ma'am.
But so I wanted to add my appreciation along with my fellow colleagues about the testimony that you've received. I think that also says a lot, including, especially as been pointed out, testimony from the Deputy Fire Chief, Mr. Sinicolas. These all give us a lot of understanding of the level of connectedness and support that you have throughout the community. And that's, of course, very important for us to hear and consider. And I also really appreciated the holistic nature of your testimony and being able to hear your approaches. Some of the ones that stood out to me, of course, they're all important, but some of the ones that stood out to me, and this is partly because I've seen in other agencies and programs that those agencies and programs are kind of playing catch-up because there hadn't been an active plan in place to create the next generation of people to serve. And so I really appreciated that you're working and continuing that volunteer reserve program, that you're working with the idea of a junior cadet training program. Again, I just see that importance because I see the gaps that some of the other entities are dealing with. And of course, we have so much local talent. What better than for us to be picking up the reins and helping serve ourselves?
Absolutely.
And also thinking about how to ensure career paths for some of the different programs that are underneath you. Again, very important, as is providing that sort of support for the stress that comes with the job. I live in one of those neighborhoods that deals a lot with fires, and it is coming up to fire season. We've already had 4 or more in my neighborhood, one last night. So I've been able to see and truly appreciate what firefighters do for all of us. And with that, I have a question of just to provide some further understanding. Where I live, Navy firefighters are very much a part of helping keep our neighborhood safe. And so I was wondering if, as you served up at the Anderson Air Force Base, if some of that occurs up there, because I know that there are fires that happen up there every fire season as well.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the question. The one thing I can definitely speak to is the fact that fire service on Guam has improved greatly with relationships. We didn't have the relationships that we do today, and with those relationships, we're able to break down those fence lines and those boundary markers. And at the end of the day, if a mutual aid call is made for assistance, there's very little resistance or hesitation with that. So that's huge. We didn't realize that until probably the last 6 years. And it's hugely in part due to the cooperation of our federal partners and the fire chiefs that run those organizations, as well as the Western Chiefs Association. That whole concept has brought us all together, understanding that we have a common goal and a common mission, and we're all challenged financially and with staffing and equipment. So being able to leverage our resources together in response to the community just makes us that much stronger. So yeah, it's been a great relationship with our federal partners.
And following up with that, do you see ways to continue to build that relationship that just strengthens our response, but also, just builds up that relationship of it being closer to that one Guam?
Well, absolutely. As a result of the relationship we have existing today, there is a lot of cross-training that happens. When each one of the agencies are planning on hosting a particular training or certification, If they're able to extend open seats to the other organizations, they absolutely do. What that builds is the networking amongst the firefighters. So when we do respond in a mutual aid capacity, it's not the first time we're meeting each other on the fire ground. It's actually, you know, giving each other a high five and say, hey, let's get to work. And that's huge when it comes to a response, because you don't want to have that awkward getting to know you, then ask them to, you know, pull a hand line over to you where they already know you, and you can just sit there, hey, Prim, can you grab that line? So it's been hugely beneficial that we have the relationships that we have, and I fully expect that to continue well into the future.
Excellent. Well, that's very good to hear. There are also, I believe, already in place partnerships or a working relationship with forestry. Certainly they've been part of the approach in our neighborhood to help us try to deal with the fire hazards. Do you see ways that can be further enhanced and built upon?
Oh, absolutely. It already exists now, Senator. The Forestry Division has grown immensely over the past couple of years, largely due to their leadership that's in place right now, and most importantly because of the training that they're availing themselves of. And the training that we're able to provide them as well helps to enhance their capabilities. They do have the benefit of federal funding, so that kind of helps them a little bit more than us, but they're very good about sharing those resources and assets when the need arises. So yeah, it's been a great relationship with the Forestry Division as well.
Excellent. I may have missed this, so forgive me if I have. What are your plans for working with the concept of prevention? I think that one is so important for our community now. I remember last year there were fires happening in 3 or 4 places of the island, up in Jigo, down in Homatic, at Santa Rita, and at Nimitz, kind of sometimes all at the same time. So what plans do you have towards prevention programs specifically?
Well, the great thing is our Prevention Bureau already has very strong programs in place. Some of the limiting factors to that is just actually the staffing to be able to get out and do the promotion side of it, the education piece, because they're more than capable to be able to do that component as well. However, with the limited staffing that we do have down there, the priority is on the the building plans, the inspections and things of that nature. But when we do receive calls from especially our schools requesting for fire prevention and or fire related information, they're very quick to support those efforts because they recognize that the education at that young age is very important.
Hungin, well, I would say I definitely have to agree. And so the last part that I have, I believe, builds on that as well. So we've had communications with hashers at the end of the hash run. They will traditionally, we've been told, have a bonfire. So they may have, and it may be my faulty memory if they've told me that during this time of the year, whether they don't participate in that. But I'm curious, I'd like to have us work out, or reach out to them and maybe talk about some alternatives. Of course, in our neighborhood, it makes us very nervous any time of the year that we have bonfires. But I think they've been cooperative with trying to get burn permits and so forth. So I hope they're in communication, or perhaps you could keep them in mind since it is a traditional activity for them.
Sure, and I appreciate that, ma'am, and I'll definitely take note of that. But I have not heard of any incidents with our hash runners. As you've alluded to, they seem to be very cooperative and recognize the importance of protecting our environment.
Correct. So, Sejus Masi.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Moylan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Stone, I really appreciate your presentation. I wrote down a few questions, but because of your presentation, you answered them for me. But it was really good. You covered it quite well. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Senator.
The number one was, of course, the budget and dealing with the overtime, and you have a solution for that. It's not going to be right away, but you got a long-term solution, so that's the best we can ask for, and I'm glad you're looking at that. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Senator.
The other one was the E911 funds. I'm hoping under your watch we'll never see that happen again. If you want to ring the bell to say somebody's touching it, ring the bell, and we'll be over there to stop it.
Absolutely, Senator. And with this body's help, we've got provisions in place that prevent that from happening.
Appreciate that. And then Senator Biscoli also mentioned the licensing, these small businesses that are really anxious to get going and helping generate new income for our community and help our budget. With your support and your leadership, we can get those inspections done and pump out those permits right away. And of course, you know, following the right procedures, but I'm glad you have interest on that as well.
Thank you for saying that, Senator, yes.
The one you also mentioned is the post requirements. I'm glad to hear your concern about that and what you want to do for your troops and to make sure everybody is safe. So that's important as well. And the one I'm really interested in, happy to hear, and I want to support any way I can, is the volunteer fire department. That would be wonderful. I think that can really help our island and supplement you with manpower as well. I think we've got a lot of folks out there that are wanting to do things and help out, and this could be a great chance to do that working with you. And also the junior cadet program. Possibly we'll have a future chief coming from the junior cadet program.
That would be exciting.
That
yes,
you would
sir.
start up. That would be wonderful. So you were well spoken of by your colleagues here and your friends and your family. You got all the support. That's terrific. You're obviously well qualified. And I think I really truly believe that you're on your way to living your dream. So dream come true. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Senator. I appreciate it. Very kind.
Thank you, Senator Moylan. Senator Tyree?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, I'd like to thank you as well as my other colleagues have expressed their confidence in the job that you'll be doing. It's going to serve the people of Guam and serve them well. And I have that total confidence as well in your ability to do so.
Thank you.
There is one, my colleagues asked a lot of the questions, so I'm not going to pull on that as well, but I've taken note. One of the things when I was in the 30th Guam legislature, I introduced a legislation that passed into law that would also take care of those with disabilities, being able to access the 911 system, being able to call in, as you know, and it is in public law. So can you tell me what have you done to maintain that type of access for these people with disabilities?
Senator, that's a very good question, and I will be perfectly honest with you in that I'm not absolutely certain to what extent our current 911 system is able to support with, I believe it's called TT, I can't remember exactly what the function is. However, with the next generation 911 system, that is absolutely addressed in that procurement. So if we can get that system online, we will absolutely be able to answer that question for you.
Okay, but it's currently in law right now that requires you to oversee this ability for those with disabilities. One opportunity or idea that you might be able to do is continue to have a cell phone accessibility. Those who are deaf utilize texting quite a bit to get their message across. You mentioned something about how they're able to track a cell phone in the event someone's calling in to know where their location is. And you said you're able to do that currently right now?
Currently now we're not able to do that. With the next generation 911 system, we will be able to do that.
Okay, so may I make a suggestion, please,
yes,
for those who have this issue contacting? So you can imagine, we have people in the deaf community who drive. They still drive. And if they should get in a car accident or, God forbid, they're trapped somehow and they have their cell phone, but they can't speak, they can't hear. So the only thing they have to save their life is their cell phone, and that cell phone needs to be able to contact your agency for help. So I remembered speaking to David Pareto, who was the chief of police at that time, and he assured me that they would have this kind of mechanism. So we're in the same office, so I'm just going to walk up to your office, by tomorrow and check you out to make sure that you have this ability for that, at least for the deaf community in this perspective, okay?
Thank you, Senator. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to find that information for you, and I'll be happy to report that to you.
Please, I greatly
Yes, ma'am.
appreciate it. It is in the law.
Yes, ma'am.
So. The other one, last night I was noticing when I was out on my balcony, looking out in the mountains, I saw the fire out there, the glow in the sky, and so what's the progress on that?
As far as the fire itself, ma'am?
Containing it, and is it?
As of this morning, I want to say that has been contained.
Okay, great.
However, I would need to confirm that, and I would be glad to get back to you on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're just upstairs.
Yes, ma'am.
4 of us here have offices in your building, so it's as easy as knocking on your door, but we'll find out.
Yes, ma'am.
I have total confidence in yourself, your deputy especially too as well, and the men and women of the fire department. Thank you so much for your service too as well, and greatly appreciate the support that you're going to give your chief to ensure that this agency thrives and give Guam the best it could ever give. Thank you so much, and you have my support. 100%.
Thank you very much, Senator. Very kind.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Taidewi. Senator Shelton?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Hafaday, Chief Stone.
Hafaday, Senator. How are you?
Great, thank you. Congratulations to you and Sidious Masi for accepting the appointment.
Thank you very much.
I greatly appreciate all of the testimony that was provided today by your friends, family, supporters, and your colleagues. And I heard many words like motivational, inspirational, that you have high expectations, but that you're also very professional and passionate about the work you do. So I have great confidence in you and your abilities to perform as the chief of the fire department.
Thank you.
And I think that one of the traits of a good leader is someone who really cares about everyone, not just about yourself or about the few around you, but you care about your entire department. And from the 6 points that you provided in your testimony, I can see that, especially about the mental health and well-being of your entire department, not just about the emergency responders, but everyone. And so thank you for that. My colleagues did ask all the questions that I wanted to ask, but I wanted to, one more. If you could tell me about the 2-in, 2-out rule of the National Fire Protection Association and where the department is with that rule.
Yes, thank you for the question, because that really is a very important rule that the Guam Fire Department strives to achieve every day. The 2-in, 2-out rule requires that for any 2 firefighters who are going to enter any hazardous environment or enter into a fire, there must be 2 additional firefighters dressed in the same ensemble and prepared in response should the 2 firefighters that are inside experience any trouble or duress. So to be able to have that requires staffing. And sometimes that staffing challenge is there, but we work every day to ensure that we meet those minimum requirements. But it does require us potentially calling people in for overtime to meet that minimum safety standard.
Okay, thank you very much. And I want to ensure that we're protecting, ensuring the safety and well-being of our responders. And I know that the NFPA says that this rule does save lives, so I want to ensure that we're able to comply with that rule as the department. So thank you for that.
Thank you for the question.
And I know in the past, the department talked about constructing a new headquarters in Timoning, and I wanted to know, what are your thoughts about that, and is that a priority for you?
Absolutely. So Chief St. Nicholas actually briefed me on that about on the first week that I took the seat, and actually took me out to the site to give me the overlay of what the potential could be for a new fire station and headquarters building. I have reached out to GITA, who is the agency who is going to try and help us in that regard, but I have not had the opportunity to sit with them to continue that discussion. I would absolutely and support and prioritize that if we could, because the current station, Timoning Fire Station, is obviously in a very heavily congested area, and should the engine company or the ambulance need to respond out of there, that at times can prove very challenging, especially during our high traffic times. Relocating the station to a more advantageous position would help us with our response and minimize the delays in our response while we're trying to beat the traffic that's ever growing on Guam.
Sidious Masi, I'd like to see that happen for you, so thank you very much. And I wanted to ask you questions about your retention and recruitment, which all my colleagues already asked, but I really appreciate your innovativeness, especially with your ideas about having a reserve program and a junior cadet program, and I see how you'd like to engage with our community with that. And so I think that's great, and that you're trying to support the department even with the limited resources that we have and be innovative in that way. So Situ Esmasi, and I look forward to your service.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Senator Shelton, and thank you to the rest of my colleagues. Thank you, Mr. Stone, for accepting the nomination. And with that, there being no other questions, we'll go ahead and end this hearing. The committee will continue to accept written testimony for Mr. Stone's confirmation within 10 days from today. You may provide written testimonies to our office at 238 Archbishop Flores Street, Suite 906 in the DNA building in Hagåtña. Or you may send testimony via email to sen.cridgell@teleguam.net or by fax at 671-475-4768. This hearing is now in recess until 1 o'clock this afternoon, when we will return to discuss bills number 37-35 COR and 34-35 COR. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senators. Enjoy your day.